See, I think as I said, in this gloom and doom world, इंडिया एक oasis की तरह है. अगर ऑयल प्राइसेस $100 के नीचे रहता है, आई थिंक वी आर इन अ गुड शेप. अगर आप देखिए इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम काफी स्ट्रांग है ऑन ग्राउंड. आई थिंक नेट नेट बैंकिंग सेक्टर, बोथ प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक सेक्टर, at this juncture are doing well. They are able to pass on the cost of funds also pretty easily. So it's as one of the bankers said, it's a Cinderella land at this juncture, that everything is looking pretty good. So I think momentum is good. Next 2-3 quarters should be good for ESG. In simple sense is how company conducts business over a longer periods of time. Simple as that. How it takes care of its customer, how it takes care of the ecosystem, how it takes care of its vendors, stakeholders, and the regulators. So basically, how a company creates the ecosystem around it to ensure that the businesses are run for a longer periods of time. But I think I would relate hybrid funds as passive funds only.
Okay.
In a way, because again, easy to sell product, it is like a 70-30, 50-50 kind of ratio. When you go out and tell people, you will say I will beat inflation and FD plus kind of return. See, investment is like a rice plate, right? You should have everything in your fold.
हेलो फ्रेंड्स, मेरा नाम नम्रता अरोरा है एंड वेलकम बैक टू अनदर वंडरफुल एपिसोड ऑन म्यूचुअल फंड की बात. जैसे आप सबको पता है, म्यूचुअल फंड की बात में हम इंडियन और ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक कंडीशंस के बारे में बात करते हैं, कमोडिटीज के बारे में बात करते हैं, स्टॉक मार्केट के बारे में बात करते हैं, ऑफ कोर्स वी टॉक अबाउट म्यूचुअल फंड्स. और हमारे हर एपिसोड में वी गेट समवन वेरी नॉलेजेबल जिनको कैपिटल मार्केट में काफ़ी एक्सपीरियंस है. एंड टुडे वी हैव वन सच पर्सनालिटी विद अस. दिस पर्सन इज नोन इन द म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री. उनका नाम है मिस्टर जिनेश गोपानी, जो है एक्सिस एएमसी के हेड ऑफ इक्विटी हैं और इनका करीब 20 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है इन द कैपिटल मार्केट्स. इन्होंने एक्सिस एएमसी 2009 में ज्वाइन किया था एज एन इक्विटी फंड मैनेजर and he worked his way up to become the head of equity in 2016. He currently manages the flagship Axis Long-Term Equity Fund amongst other funds. Axis AMC join करने से पहले जिनेश was associated with Birla Sun Life AMC as a portfolio manager, जहां he was responsible for alternative assets across growth, value and dividend baskets. ये जो है Voyager India Capital के साथ भी काम कर चुके हैं as a senior research analyst responsible for BFSI and the infrastructure sector, and इन्होंने जो है sectorial portfolio manager role for investments का भी किया है. Mr. Jinesh Gopani holds a master's degree in finance from the University of Mumbai and has been actively managing money since 2007. Hi Jinesh, welcome to Mutual Funds की बात. So let's start off with the very first question. तो आई थिंक हम सबको पता है कि मार्केट्स और इकोनॉमी जो है इन्वेस्टर्स को अलग अलग सरप्राइजेस देती रहती हैं. अर्लियर दिस ईयर हम एक रोबस्ट इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी की तरफ जा रहे थे, लेकिन आज हमारी सबसे बड़ी वरी यही है कि शायद एक ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक स्लो डाउन होगा. एंड ऑब्वियसली एक्सपर्ट्स बिलीव कि इकोनॉमिक ट्रबल यूरो रीजन की वजह से है. जर्मनी विच इज़ यूरोप्स लार्जेस्ट इकोनॉमी इज हेडिंग फॉर अ रिसेशन. तो हम आपका पर्सपेक्टिव जानना चाहेंगे कि इसमें यूरोपियन मार्केट और इंडियन मार्केट पे क्या असर पड़ेगा.
या हाय. See, I think इंडिया अगर आप देखिए प्रेडोमिनेंटली डोमेस्टिक कंजम्पशन ड्रिवन इकोनॉमी है. सो आई थिंक होपफुली वी विल बी लेस इम्पैक्टेड. इंडिया को कम इम्पैक्ट होगा एज कम्पेयर टू अदर emerging markets like Taiwan or developed markets like Korea. So I think we are in a way better off. However, the indirect impact will be there. Certain exports slow down हो सकते हैं जो यूरोप की तरफ जा रहे थे, स्पेशली टेक्सटाइल, ऑटो एंसिलरीज जो यहाँ से एक्सपोर्ट हो रहे थे यूरोप को. आई थिंक थोड़ा स्लो डाउन वहाँ आ सकता है. बट आई थिंक बाय एंड लार्ज ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम नहीं होना चाहिए बिकॉज ऑफ यूरोप. आई थिंक वी हैव टू जस्ट होप कि ऑयल प्राइसेस अपने कंट्रोल में रहे, जो भी हो रहा है ग्लोबली, एंड उसके हिसाब से अगर ऑयल प्राइसेस यहाँ से $100+ या $130+ रह जाते हैं लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, देन आई थिंक इंडिया को इम्पैक्ट काफ़ी हो सकता है. बिकॉज आप इम्पोर्टेड इन्फ्लेशन लाओगे इंडिया में, एंड एट सम पॉइंट that inflation impact will be seen in India also. So I think by and large I think इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, इतनी वरी की बात नहीं है. इनडायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट आ सकता है, बट नेट नेट वी वुड बी बेटर ऑफ.
Okay, good. That's good to know. All right. तो आई थिंक सिर्फ यूरोप रीजन का ही नहीं, अगर हम यूएस की भी बात करें तो यूएस जो है अभी हायर देन नॉर्मल इन्फ्लेशन लेवल्स एक्सपीरियंस कर रहा है. और ये ऑफ कोर्स जो इन्फ्लेशन है वो काफी डेकेड्स के बाद ऐसा इन्फ्लेशन यूएस एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं. लास्ट टाइम एन वी सॉ अगेन एक जियोपॉलिटिकल क्राइसिस था, क्रूड ऑयल प्राइस बढ़ गए थे. लेकिन ऑफ कोर्स इन द रीसेंट पास्ट इन्फ्लेशन थोड़ा ईज आउट होना शुरू हुआ है. तो आपको क्या लगता है कि इसकी वजह से इंडियन एक्विटीज, इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट को क्या मदद मिलेगी, एंड विल वी कंटिन्यू टू डू वेल इन दीज चैलेंजिंग टाइम्स?
See, I think as I said, in this gloom and doom world, इंडिया एक ओएसिस की तरह है. अगर ऑयल प्राइसेस $100 के नीचे रहता है, आई थिंक वी आर इन अ गुड शेप. अगर आप देखिए, इकोनॉमिक मोमेंटम काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग है ऑन ग्राउंड. यू सी इवन द फेस्टिव सीजन्स काफ़ी अच्छे गए थे. सो आई थिंक मोमेंटम है इकोनॉमी में. गवर्नमेंट ने उनका स्पेंडिंग काफ़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग है अभी भी. अगर आप डेटा देखिए, इंडस्ट्री क्रेडिट ग्रोथ आ गया है. सो आई थिंक बारिंग ऑयल प्राइसेस, आई थिंक इंडिया के लिए इतनी तकलीफ नहीं है. आई थिंक द गुड पार्ट वुड बी अगर यूएस इन्फ्लेशन कम्स ऑफ, आपके यूएस यील्ड्स भी थोड़े कम हो जाएंगे, which might lead to again resurgence of FII flows into emerging markets. Or if you know, last 15 months we have seen $40 billion going out of India. I think if some percentage अगर इंडिया में आ जाता है वापस, then I think it will be better for us, especially in the large cap space as compared to mid and small. So I think India doesn't look to be in a very very bad shape. Maybe there might be time correction, but massive price correction, I don't think it is coming unless there is a black swan event.
Okay, okay, interesting. So, coming back to your, आपने जो अभी बोला, so not too long ago, जैसे जो हम देखते थे कि FPIs जो हैं were treated as a big indicator on how Indian markets would perform, right? हमें अगर FPIs अच्छा अगर FPI इनफ्लो आ रहा है तो मतलब इंडियन मार्केट्स अच्छा करने वाली हैं. लेकिन ऑफ कोर्स 2020 से काफी चेंज आया है. सो कीपिंग दैट इन माइंड, FPIs अभी अक्टूबर में देखें तो काफी वापस आ रहे हैं. बट डू यू थिंक दे विल कंटिन्यू टू लुक एट इंडियन मार्केट्स, और ये कितना इम्पोर्टेंट होगा हमारे लिए, क्योंकि डोमेस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशनल इन्वेस्टर्स जो हैं आर टेकिंग अप द स्पेस जो FIIs ने छोड़ा था, राइट? सो व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन दिस?
अगर आप MSCI डेटा देखिए, द वेटेज इन MSCI हैज़ गॉन अप significantly over last 2 year period. When we started, we were around 8.5%. Now we are at 16%. China, which was at around 40%, has come down to 30%. So I think now FIIs cannot ignore India even from the passive point of view, because India is second largest in the indices as well, higher than now Korea or Taiwan. So I think that should bode well. I think जो पॉजिटिव हो सकता है इज अगर गवर्नमेंट अपनी मोमेंटम जारी रखे, इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ मोमेंटम जारी रहे. आई थिंक इंडिया शुड गेट इट्स फेयर शेयर ऑफ फ्लोज, especially on the large cap side and less on the mid and small side. I think I just hope that there is no major reversal in the SIP flows in India as yields are going up. I think if I may just take some number, अगर 20-30% जो पैसा इंडिया में इंडियन मार्केट्स में आया था was because of fixed deposit rates going down dramatically over last 4-5 year period, and there was no other alternative to make money, and hence that money during COVID had come into the markets. So I hope FII flows counters that reversal, if at all that comes. I don't think it will come, but you never know. So I think net I would say we should be in a sort of a time correction kind of a period. Then again, as I am saying, not a major price correction.
Okay, okay, that's great. So this was about the economy. अब थोड़ा sectors के बारे में discuss कर लेते हैं. And I truly believe that इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी के लिए बैंकिंग सेक्टर एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करता है, राइट? और अगर हम रिसेंटली देखें तो PSU बैंक्स जो हैं काफ़ी अच्छा उन्होंने किया है. तो व्हाट इज योर व्यू ऑन द बैंकिंग सेक्टर?
I think generally banking had the biggest impact of COVID. अगर आप देखिए the impact which came to any sector was banking because government had or RBI had to come out with moratorium periods. So banking went through a hell lot of price correction. अगर आप देखिए most of the stocks were down anywhere between 20 to 25% on an average banking stocks. I think now if you just fast forward, the way the system has been able to manage the asset quality, the way credit growth is coming back, I think banking seems to be a very very bright spot for India. And if you need let's say 6-7% of GDP growth, आपको 11 to 12% इंडस्ट्री क्रेडिट ग्रोथ चाहिए. रिटेल लोन ग्रोथ काफ़ी अच्छा चल रहा है, होम लोन ग्रोथ अच्छा चल रहा है, अनसिक्योर्ड अच्छा चल रहा है, SME वर्किंग कैपिटल लिमिट्स आर गोइंग अप, स्मॉल केपेक्सेस आर डूइंग वेल लाइक फार्मा सेक्टर, केमिकल सेक्टर, ऑटो एंसिलरीज, ऑटोज जहाँ केपेक्स हो रहे हैं. आई थिंक नेट नेट बैंकिंग सेक्टर बोथ प्राइवेट एंड पब्लिक सेक्टर at this juncture are doing well. They are able to pass on the cost of funds also pretty easily. So it's as one of the bankers said, it's a Cinderella land at this juncture, that everything is looking pretty good. So I think momentum is good. Next 2-3 quarters should be good for me.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, okay. तो अब अगर हम एक और इंटरेस्टिंग सेक्टर की बात करें जो आई थिंक 2020 2021 में 2 साल ब्लू आइड बॉय था ऑफ द इक्विटी मार्केट विच वाज द टेक सेक्टर, राइट. एंड काफ़ी इन्वेस्टर्स ने इस सेक्टर के ऊपर काफ़ी बड़ा बेट किया. और अगर हम म्यूचुअल फंड इन्वेस्टर्स की भी बात करें तो ऐसे काफ़ी इन्वेस्टर्स हैं जिन्होंने अपनी जर्नी जो है टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर फंड से शुरू करी, राइट. दे स्टार्टेड द इन्वेस्टमेंट्स विद आईटी सेक्टर फंड्स एंड थिंग्स हैव नॉट बिन द सेम इन 2022, जहाँ पे काफ़ी टेक कंपनीज एक्सेलरेटेड ग्रोथ मोड में थे, अब वो सडनली जो हैं सर्वाइवल मोड में चले गए हैं, राइट. एंड काफ़ी इन्वेस्टर्स ने काफ़ी लॉसेस भी इनकर किए हैं, स्पेशली जो नई न्यू एज टेक कंपनीज हैं जो लिस्ट हुई हैं रिसेंटली. तो व्हाट इज़ योर ओपिनियन ऑन दिस, एंड जो म्यूचुअल फंड्स हैं वो अभी भी ऐसी लॉस मेकिंग कंपनीज को क्यों होल्ड करके रखें?
Correct. So first is it is direct correlation to Nasdaq. अगर आप देखिए Nasdaq has corrected by 30-40%. Many stocks have corrected by 60-70%. Even good stocks, so-called good stocks, have corrected by 60-70%. So I think it is correlation to what's happening in Nasdaq. Hopefully, we are into bottoming out process of the tech sector, and if US yields doesn't move up from here on, and hopefully stabilizes or comes down as Federal Reserve is targeting slowdown in US. I think we are seeing a bottoming out process for the technology sector. Especially, I'm talking more about the outsourcing tech sector, which is the likes of big IT companies which are listed. Coming to internet, I think clearly when there was an euphoria, again it was getting mimicked with what was happening in Nasdaq internet stocks. Having seen brutal sell-off in Nasdaq, I think they also have corrected here. And the good part is even the promoters or the entrepreneurs have now realized that path to profitability is equally important as growth is important. So I think now we are seeing many companies coming and talking to us about path to profitability. अब वो कब आएगा पता नहीं है, लेकिन एटलीस्ट द जर्नी इज स्टार्टिंग. एंड if they want to raise more capital from the equity markets, I think they will have to now think of path to profitability. And having learned their lessons over last 12-month period where stocks are down 40, 50, 60%, I think it is good time to nibble around, I would say. They have started demonstrating their ability of profitability, and hopefully at least few of them will do well.
Sure. I mean, a lot of investors have invested so much money in tech that I hope it comes back, as you rightly said. Yeah. Another very interesting sector, lockdown के बाद हमने revenge travel as a word discover किया, right? A lot of people have started traveling and spending a lot of money on travel. Yeah, तो अगर हम देखें तो domestic air passenger traffic काफ़ी pre-COVID levels के around हो गया है. Ticket prices बढ़ गए हैं. Hotels are seeing very good occupancy levels, not just for leisure but for business travel as well. तो आपका ये airlines, travel, hospitality, entertainment sector, इसमें इसका क्या view है? And do you think this sector makes a strong case for allocation in a person's portfolio?
I think hospitality makes a good sense because people have been traveling a lot after 2.5 years of lockdown. Clearly, if you go on ground and do some channel checks, you will see most of the good hotels are, I think, fully booked for next 2-3 months. I think even after that, what really has changed in terms of the mindset of the citizen or the population is that in during COVID we saw many people dying without any reason, I would say. So there is a change in, I would say, behavior of the consumer, that if you are uh, 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 let's say worth some crores, I think might as I will spend on myself or my family than just keep on saving. So I think I would say it is more structural in nature. Obviously, the intensity might slow down, but it is more structural in nature. People who were going once in a year, I think, would start traveling twice in a year because they want to spend now. Because means people have seen that people dying without any reason, and why not spend on themselves than keeping money for your children. So I think that some mindset has changed, and you will see hospitality sector, I think, doing well. On the aviation side and on the entertainment side, clearly, aviation is a very difficult business model, I would say. There are a lot of variables at play, starting from payload factor to, let's say, oil prices. And even in the best of the best cycle, we have not seen companies making huge money. In fact, worldwide, if you see, they have not been large wealth creators. So I would, in a way, avoid, from a long term perspective, I would avoid those sectors. uh, Entertainment, again, you have very few stocks to participate, and again, you are dependent on the content from some other people. So I think, from a long term, those two sectors doesn't make real sense, but I think hospitality really makes.
So basically, you're saying कि people have started living for the present, not in the future. So they might as well spend now, and you know, fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So now I think now let's move on to the mutual fund industry. तो अभी हमने sectors के बारे में discuss किया, हमने economy के बारे में discuss किया. तो अगर हम म्यूचुअल फंड्स में देखें तो पैसिव फंड्स जो हैं इन्होंने काफ़ी इन्फ्लोज देखे हैं अक्टूबर स्पेशली थ्रू एनएफओस स्पेशली अगर हम इंडेक्स फंड्स की बात करें राइट तो पैसिव फंड्स के ऊपर आपका क्या व्यू है बिकॉज वी गेट वेरी मिक्स्ड रिव्यूज ऑन पैसिव फंड्स इन जनरल सो व्हाट इज योर व्यू ऑन पैसिव फंड्स और टू बी मोर स्पेसिफिक इंडेक्स फंड्स.
See, I think it's a brilliant product to bring any customer into your fold, right? It's a low cost product, very easy to sell, doesn't require huge financial acumen, and it is easy to, I would say, tell anyone to invest into passive, because the risk lies at the hands of the investor, not at the hands of the relationship manager. So
Right.
it is very easy product to onboard any new customer, I would say. So I think that product is here to stay. However, I think one needs to segregate the customer base. There are sophisticated customers who are, let's say, income bracket above 1 to 3 crores, and would want to invest in sophisticated products or thematic products because they understand markets. There is a possibility of making extra returns than the market. If you take history of the market, I think Nifty has given delivered some 9% CAGR for last 12-13 years, and there are many funds, active funds, who have delivered 15% plus CAGR. So if you want that extra 6-7%, then I think you will have to come to active. So I think one needs to segregate their business model accordingly. If you want to onboard any new customer, I think passive is the best way to go for. But having said that, you need to graduate him to more sophisticated products over a next 5 to 10 year period, so that he enjoys higher returns as compared to Nifty index.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm completely with you on that. Okay, next question is a very interesting question. We're going to talk about SIPs, and I think हम सब agree करते हैं as people who've been in the industry for many years, and शायद both of us have been investors for over 15-20 years. अगर हम म्यूचुअल फंड्स की बात करें हम हमेशा SIPs की बात करते हैं क्योंकि वी अंडरस्टैंड कि SIPs एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं राइट तो अगर हम
Correct.
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्फ्लोज देखें पिछले कुछ महीनों में SIPs के जरिए बहुत ज़्यादा इन्फ्लोज आए हैं तो डू यू थिंक कि इन्वेस्टर्स को फाइनली पता चला है कि एसआईपीज की इम्पोर्टेंस क्या होती है एंड विल दे कंटिन्यू टू इन्वेस्ट थ्रू एसआईपीज इवन इफ द मार्केट्स क्रैश?
See, I think compounding is a very, very great story to play around. However, people, I mean, don't understand that in the near term. Only when they look at returns 5, 10 years down the line, they will really feel the impact of compounding. So I think mutual fund has done a great job of educating people over last 5, 10, 15 years, and now we are seeing the fruits of it, that people have realized that those 1,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, or 10,000 rupees of investment you are doing now will really give you good returns on tax-free returns, good tax-free returns over a period of next 5, 10 years. So I think slowly, steadily that culture is setting in, and I think
Yeah.
we have long way to go for bringing a large base of customer into the SIP route. I would say it's just the beginning. Obviously, there will be ups and downs depending on how the interest rates move. But net, I would say people, at least in the top 50 centers or top 100 centers, they have realized this pretty well, and they have been now starting to invest into SIP more frequently.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of work which is going around promoting SIPs and बहुत लोग इसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं शायद जिसकी वजह से अवेयरनेस बढ़ रहा है और SIPs के जरिए काफी इन्फ्लोज आ रहे हैं which is great. That's so true. So, now let's discuss a little bit about different categories of funds. तो अगर हम, sectors देखें, to a large extent sectors जो economic cycles को mimic करते हैं. Do you think investors should look at business cycle funds? And I think a more fundamental question, कि business cycle funds होते क्या हैं?
So I think on one hand we are talking about passive funds, and on the other hand we are talking about business
Business
cycle.
cycle. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think again you need to know your customer very well. What type of product will be suited for a particular customer, so investor, I would say. So I think there is a good scope for having different thematic funds in the market. You will have those sophisticated investors who would really understand these cycles of the businesses and would participate. It cannot be very large products. It cannot be a 30, 40, 50,000 crore product, but it can be a easily 5, 10,000 crore kind of a product category. And I think a business cycle offers you those opportunities. And if you are able, as a house, if you are able to capture those business cycles well, I think with the experience we have seen that benefiting in the existing funds, then why not have a product like that? So there are cycles in the market, there are business cycles in the market. Some sectors does well in the certain economic framework, and some sectors don't do well in the certain economic framework. So I think if you have a good research team, then I think you can catch those cycles pretty early and ride through those cycle over, let's I would say it is a cycle of 2 3 years, not 1 year. So we are not trying to play those 20% return kind of cycles. We are more looking at a structural ups and downs of the cycle. So there are many sectors at play which offers those cyclicality, and we can play around that.
तो are you trying to say कि अगर हमें business cycle fund में as an investor invest करना है तो short term allocation करना चाहिए उसमें? So ideally अगर आप बोल रहे हैं 2 3 साल
See, cycles are there for 2 3 years, but
right.
fund will remain for next 20 25 years.
Sure, but the fund
So
allocation you're saying would keep changing based on the cycles.
correct. So that is the job of the fund manager, to keep on changing the index constituent or the portfolio constituents. But I think for an investor, I think it is one more product available to participate as a thematic fund.
As a
So if
thematic.
you are investing in pharma fund, if you are investing in manufacturing fund, then why not invest in the business cycle fund?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes sense. Okay. Okay, so this is a very interesting concept of passive ELSS funds, right? So abhi jaise SEBI allows AMCs to launch active या passive ELSS. So do you think investors should go for these passive ELSS funds या हमें active funds के साथ ही रहना चाहिए?
See, India still is not a I would say discovered market. There are still entrepreneurs. There are still new themes which are getting listed in India, and as I said, the last 15 years, if you see Nifty returns versus some of the good funds who have delivered, I think 2x of Nifty returns. I think there is huge scope for price discovery, for many stories which are in the small cap and the mid cap space. India is land of entrepreneurs. India is run by 20 to 30 million entrepreneurs, and we have only 3,000, 4,000 stocks listed. Of that, investable universe is just 200, 250. So there is huge scope for many companies to get listed, and if you are able to identify those companies as an active fund manager at the earliest, I think there is a huge scope for wealth creation. So I think my take would be, again, as I said, that if you are a first time customer, it is easy to sell the product you bring in him. But then I think active will still have a large role to play. We have seen in US only one way cycle of ETFs. We have not seen the full cycle of ETF. So let it get completed. You will see at the end of that cycle who does well or who doesn't do well. But I think there has to be some truth to this madness. So I think active will still continue as a playing a bigger role as compared to passives.
Now let's talk about another interesting category जो हम बोलते हैं ESG investing, right? मुझे लगता है कि अगर हम thematic funds में देखें तो ESG कैटेगरी ने काफी पिकअप किया है. तो what are your views on ESG investing? और maybe आप ESG के बारे में थोड़ा हमें बता सकते हैं, and then you can tell us कि as an investor हमारे पोर्टफोलियो में ESG funds होने चाहिए, नहीं होने चाहिए, उनका क्या आउटलुक है?
Yeah, ESG in simple sense is how company conducts business over a longer periods of time. Simple as that. How it takes care of its customer, how it takes care of the ecosystem, how it takes care of its vendors, stakeholders, and the regulators. So basically, how a company creates the ecosystem around it to ensure that the businesses are run for a longer periods of time. So, an ESG is the framework, more of a framework to put in place. So, I think G is very important. Corporate governance. We have
Governance.
seen, yeah, we have seen. If you are not so good in governance, eventually you die, and that lifespan is 5 to 10 years, I would say. If you are wrong, if you are wrong into governance. I think businesses who live over the manager are the businesses will follow G pretty strongly, and obviously E and S then comes into picture depending on the sectors where they are. So different sectors will have different E and S component, because if you are into, let's say, mining, your E and S will be
जी.
very heavy in terms of weightages. But if you are into banking or technology, then E and S will be very less, because any which ways you are not in certain sense you are not deteriorating the climate or the environment like what, let's say, the other companies like cement sector or natural resources companies do.
Yeah.
So I think again weightages will be different. So I think it is very important if you are a long term investor and if you want to see how this company is conducting its business. And we have seen there is a data which we have, that only 4% of the total companies in the world have been in existence for more than 30 years.
Wow.
So rest all die at some point or the other. So I think the proof of the pudding of any company is how they improve their ESG conduct when they are small cap, mid cap, large cap. When a company is a small cap, the focus of the entrepreneur is just growth. When it becomes moves into small cap to mid cap, the focus comes to profitability and growth. But obviously, then you are becoming larger part of the ecosystem. So
Ecosystem.
people, you have to implement some of the governance practices, some of the E&S practices, depending on the sectors where they are. Once you move into large cap or larger mid cap, clearly there is an expectation from the society, from the stakeholders, that the conduct of business is done so that you don't fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
And that is where I think we feel that ESG over different levels is different, but it is very important for the conduct of business for a longest period of time.
No, I'm completely with you on that, and I think हमने काफी ऐसी कंपनीज के एग्जांपल्स देखे हैं इन द रीसेंट पास्ट, नाम नहीं लूंगी, जिनके सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस की वजह से जो कंपनीज they've gone bankrupt, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
corporate governance truly plays a very big role, and I
Yeah, yeah,
completely agree with you on that.
yeah.
Okay, now let's quickly talk about hybrid funds, क्योंकि जब भी हम hybrid funds की बात करते हैं तो
हमेशा ही बोला जाता है, एक्सपर्ट्स ये बोलते हैं कि अगर आप अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी शुरू कर रहे हैं और आपको उतना कुछ नहीं पता है, तो आप हाइब्रिड फंड से शुरू करिए एंड देन यू कैन सी हाउ इट गोस, राइट? व्हाट इज योर टेक ऑन हाइब्रिड फंड्स? और जब हम हाइब्रिड फंड्स की बात करते हैं तो इतने सारी टाइप्स ऑफ हाइब्रिड फंड्स हैं, तो एज एन इन्वेस्टर मैं कैसे पिक करूं कि मेरे लिए कौन सा हाइब्रिड फंड सही है?
I think again it is a tricky question to answer, but I think I would relate hybrid funds as passive funds only,
ओके.
in a way, because again easy to sell product, and you know it is like a 70-30, 50-50 kind of ratio, and you are trying, when you go out and tell people, you will say I will beat inflation and FD plus kind of return.
Yeah.
And if you really see Nifty passive funds, I think it is also beating FD plus kind of return. So I would relate both of them similar. Either you have a passive fund or you have a hybrid fund. दोनों रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. But
अच्छा.
my take always would be, if you are a hardcore equity guy, then you have to invest in pure equity fund.
Pure equity. Okay. Fair. So from your perspective, hybrid funds are okay in moderation. थोड़ा बहुत अगर आपको रखना है तो या तो passive funds रख सकते हैं.
Correct.
Okay, okay, fair enough. All right. तो अभी जैसे बहुत सारे solution oriented funds हैं, right? जैसे funds which focus on children's education या फिर funds that focus on retirement planning for for investors. तो आपका क्या take है on these solution oriented funds?
See, I think generally, if you really look at financial goals of any person, I think he should be looking at this type of products. And obviously, you have to look at how the portfolio is built up, what is the churn of the portfolio, what fund manager is really investing into. So I think it's a brilliant product. I think it's a category which is not being understood well for various reasons. But I think if you take yourself, you will think of putting some money into different goals, right? And this provides you those opportunities to invest into those themes or goals. I would say more of a goal that I don't need this money for next 10-15 years.
Hmm.
If my kid is, let's say, 4-5 years of age, I don't need money till the time he or she is going into graduation or a post graduation mode. So I know for what I am investing, and that goes lock in.
Yeah.
Once you have those goals based investment, it goes into lock in also. And the beauty of any investment is to have patience and long term commitment. The kind of compounding returns you make is humongous. So it's a I mean, in fact, we are dwelling pretty much into deep in terms of how to make it a sort of a front end product rather than one of the products. But it's a very important thing. I think as people have started realizing SIP as a route now, I think slowly, steadily, people will realize goal-based investment, and I think we will be there.
Yeah, I mean, जैसे हम हमेशा बोलते हैं, right? Whenever we do any of these sessions for investors, we always say कि goals होने चाहिए. अगर आपके goals रहेंगे तो automatically आपकी investment structured हो ही जाएंगी, right? And these
And you are
products,
disciplined. You are disciplined. You
yeah,
are disciplined. Then
yeah,
you
this is
don't take out money. आप अपने बच्चे के नाम पे डाल रहे हो, then you will think twice before taking out money from that.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah, fair. Okay, so I think the next few questions will have around investors' portfolio allocation. तो उसके perspective से discuss करते हैं कि तो अगर हम बात करें तो how do you think investors should pick index funds? हमने index funds के बारे में already काफी discussion किया है, right? लेकिन अगर एक investor को index fund pick करना है, तो जैसे for instance, या तो ऐसे funds pick करने चाहिए जो Nifty 50 को track कर रहे हैं, या Nifty Next 50 को, Nifty Small Cap 50 and so on. तो how should an investor pick an index fund?
Again, very tough to answer that question because it is a very nascent and new concept which is emerging into the market. Uh, I think I would say better go for simpler products rather than confusing yourself into Nifty, next Nifty, and all sorts of things, because you don't know whether that next Nifty will really become Nifty,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I have not seen all next Nifty becoming part of Nifty, right? So I think it is better to don't confuse yourself. We stick to simpler products, which is like a Nifty linked or Sensex linked. Yeah, maybe maximum you can have, let's say, NSE 500 link index products. So I think better to go for Nifty based approach, I would say.
आई ट्रूली बिलीव कि आप अपना पोर्टफोलियो को जितना लेस कॉम्प्लिकेटेड रखेंगे शायद उतना एज एन इन्वेस्टर बेनिफिट करेंगे.
Correct.
Yeah, that's true. All right, okay. Let's talk a little bit about value investing, right? आपको क्या लगता है कि investors को value funds में invest करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए? Tell us a little bit about value investing from your perspective.
Yeah, for us, to be very frank, we are growth and quality house. And for us, intrinsic value of the business is more important than just looking at value from a P or a price to book point of view. I think for us, even a company which is trading at 20-25 PE, but if the business model is very, very strong and if company is able to deliver higher growth rates than the industry averages with higher ROEs, we would say there is an intrinsic value for that company. So how do you, for example, how do you value a brand, right? So and there are always questioners that why X brand or X company is always trading so expensive. It is trading expensive because of the brand strength, the product capability, the corporate governance of the company, and ability to generate ROE and cash flows. So uh, I might not be the right guy to give you those answers, but I think one should have, let's say, see, investment is like a, I would say, rice plate, right? You should have everything in your fold. So I think you can have, let's say, 10% index funds. You can have 20% growth funds, pure equity funds. You can have 20-25% value funds. So that in a way you are trying to diversify yourself from the vagaries of market. So uh, to that extent, for me, I think intrinsic value plays a better role as compared to just looking at price to earnings or price to book and saying that it's a value pick.
But अगर थोड़ा allocation value funds में है तो it is okay is what you're saying from a diversification
It's
point of
okay.
view.
I think different people have different perspectives, so it all depends on what he or she really wants to participate. I have seen that ultimately markets are slaves to earnings growth. So growth is life, and we have seen wealth creation only happens in the growth company. No company would want to degrow and say I'm a value company. So to that extent, I would suggest to go more for growth as a philosophy.
Right. All right. Okay. So, before we move on towards the last two questions, I want to ask you about your portfolio, right? So, आपका जो allocation है equities में वो कैसा है and how do you diversify your personal portfolio?
So to be very frank, most as per our internal compliance and all those requirements, we normally invest in our funds only. So given my age, I would be 100% into equity.
Okay. 100% into equity? Okay. Fair enough. All right. Okay. So, क्या आप हमें बताएंगे कि Axis AMC, are you planning to come up with any new NFOs soon? And आप क्या segment target कर रहे हैं?
So I think the flavor is business cycle fund. So we have got approvals. So at some point we will be launching it.
Nice. All right. So
We
that is it.
recently launched. The timing was good. We recently launched Nasdaq ETF fund before the rise of Nasdaq. So it was a good timing. I would say we were waiting for this opportunity that we should get as stocks. As I said, that stocks have corrected by 50, 60, 70%, and they are not all stocks are bad, right? They are all very blue chip companies in that parlance. So we were able to raise some money in the Nasdaq ETF fund, and at least the start is good, I would say. You never know what happens, but start is good. So
Brilliant. Okay. So I think just the last question क्योंकि ये सवाल हम अपने सारे speakers से पूछते हैं कि can you suggest some good books especially for new equity investors?
I think I like one book which is Fooled by Randomness by Nicholas Taleb. I think it's a brilliant book. If you keep reading twice or thrice, you will really see how one investor or one any even the marquee investors get fooled by this randomness of the market and the vagaries of economy. I think I would really suggest you to look. I think in first reading you might not be in a position to understand everything, but it's a good book to read. Yeah.
Brilliant. Sure.
And there is one more book which Future Babbles by, I think, Dan. I think it really talks about how economists go always wrong in the cycle. So,
Okay.
these two books I would suggest. Yeah.
Sure. Great. Thank you so much, Jinesh. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Had a great time conversing with you. So thank you so much, and yeah, take care.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much. All the best.
Wow, what a knowledgeable and engaging conversation that we had with Mr. Gopani. I had a great time. I hope आप सबको भी ये conversation अच्छी लगी हो. I hope आप सबको ये episode अच्छा लगा हो. And of course, I hope all of you are waiting for our next episode. So quickly, अब मैं आप सबके लिए जो भी हमने बात की उसके points को summarize कर देती हूँ. So first we spoke about global economic conditions where we spoke about Germany. Germany जो है यूरोप की सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी है which is headed for a recession. तो काफ़ी लोगों को ये सवाल है कि क्या उसका इम्पैक्ट इंडियन मार्केट पे होगा. एंड मिस्टर गोपानी सेड दैट इंडिया इज़ अ कंजम्पशन ड्रिवन इकोनॉमी, तो जिसकी वजह से इंडिया पे कोई भी ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक स्लो डाउन का इम्पैक्ट उतना ज़्यादा नहीं होगा एज कम्पेयर टू अदर इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स लाइक ताइवान या इवन डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज. देन वी ऑल्सो स्पोक अबाउट यूएस रिटेल इन्फ्लेशन जो अभी काफ़ी ईज आउट हो रहा है. तो क्या जो इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट है वो ऐसे चैलेंजिंग टाइम्स में कंटिन्यू करेगी. And that is when Mr. Gopani said that India is like an oasis. लेकिन अगर इंटरनेशनल क्रूड ऑयल प्राइस बढ़ता रहा तो उसका इम्पैक्ट इंडिया पे भी होगा. दो कम टू लुक एट इट, गवर्नमेंट स्पेंडिंग काफ़ी अच्छी है, काफ़ी प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्रीज अच्छा कर रहे हैं. तो अगर स्लो डाउन हुआ भी तो उतना इम्पैक्ट नहीं होगा इंडियन मार्केट्स पे. फिर हमने FIIs के बारे में बात करी दैट नाउ FIIs आर कमिंग बैक टू द इंडियन मार्केट एंड विल दे कंटिन्यू टू रिमेन हियर. तो मिस्टर गोपानी ने बोला है कि इंडियन मार्केट्स और इंडियन इकोनॉमिक मार्केट्स आर टू लार्ज फॉर FIIs टू इग्नोर, स्पेशली ऑन द लार्ज कैप साइड. फिर हमने हॉस्पिटैलिटी, ट्रैवल, एंटरटेनमेंट सेक्टर के बारे में डिस्कस किया. तो मिस्टर गोपानी ने बोला कि अब 2 साल के बाद लोग इवेंचुअली ट्रैवल करना शुरू कर रहे हैं. दे वांट टू स्पेंड मनी नाउ, दे डोंट वांट टू से थिंक टू मच अबाउट द फ्यूचर, जिसकी वजह से जो हॉस्पिटैलिटी एज अ सेक्टर काफ़ी पॉजिटिव लग रहा है. लेकिन अगर हम ट्रैवल की बात करें तो क्योंकि क्रूड ऑयल प्राइस काफ़ी ज़्यादा है, दैट सेक्टर में कंटिन्यू टू रिमेन इम्पैक्टेड फॉर अ वाइल. और अगर हम एंटरटेनमेंट सिनेमा सेक्टर की भी बात करें तो इवन इन दिस सेगमेंट क्योंकि दूसरे लोगों पे बहुत डिपेंडेंसी है, इट मे कंटिन्यू टू बी इम्पैक्टेड फॉर अ वाइल. फिर हमने पैसिव फंड्स के बारे में बात करी जो एक मार्केट इंडेक्स को ट्रैक करते हैं एंड दे आर फाइंडिंग अ फ्लेवर अमंग्स्ट ऑर्डिनरी इन्वेस्टर्स. तो मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि जो सोफिस्टिकेटेड इन्वेस्टर्स हैं दे विल कंटिन्यू टू फोकस ऑन एक्टिव फंड्स, और अगर उनको स्लाइटली बेटर रिटर्न्स चाहिए तो वो सेक्टरल या थीमेटिक फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करेंगे. We then spoke about SIPs. In the recent past, SIPs में काफ़ी सर्ज हुआ है. बहुत सारे लोग जो है SIPs में अभी इन्वेस्ट करना शुरू कर रहे हैं. तो द क्वेश्चन वॉज कि क्या अब अगर मान लीजिए मार्केट में इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ जाता है तो क्या इन्वेस्टर्स अपने SIPs रोक देंगे. तो मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि हमें जो है अपनी इन्वेस्टमेंट SIP के जरिए नहीं रोकनी चाहिए. वी शुड कंटिन्यू देम इन द लॉन्ग टर्म, क्योंकि वो जो पावर ऑफ कंपाउंडिंग का जो बेनिफिट है वो हमें नहीं मिलेगा अगर हम जल्दी एग्जिट करेंगे. इसके बाद हमने बिजनेस साइकिल फंड्स के बारे में डिस्कस किया. दीज आर बेसिकली फंड्स जो एक इकोनॉमिक ट्रेंड को आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं और फिर ऐसे सेक्टर्स और स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं विच कैन आउट परफॉर्म दीज चेंजिंग ट्रेंड्स. तो मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि जो सोफिस्टिकेटेड इन्वेस्टर्स हैं वो ऐसे फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं टू गेट बेटर रिटर्न्स. आफ्टर दैट वी ऑल्सो स्पोक अबाउट पैसिव ELSS फंड्स, और क्या जो पैसिव ELSS फंड्स होते हैं वो एक्टिव ELSS फंड्स को बीट कर सकते हैं. एंड मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि इंडिया में भी बहुत सारी थीम्स हैं जो डिस्कवर करनी है एंड एक्टिव ELSS फंड्स विल कंटिन्यू टू डू वेल अगेंस्ट पैसिव ELSS फंड्स. इसके बाद हमने ESG एज अ थीम के बारे में डिस्कस किया. मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि जो कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस है वो एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर होता है फॉर कंपनीज टू सर्वाइव इन द लॉन्ग रन. अगर एक कंपनी कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस में स्ट्रांग है तो इट हैज़ वेरी गुड चांस ऑफ सर्वाइवल, लेकिन अगर उसका कॉर्पोरेट गवर्नेंस अच्छा नहीं है देन इट मे डाई आउट इन द फ्यूचर. एंड स्पेशली दिस इज एप्लीकेबल फॉर लार्ज कैप कंपनीज. अगर हम एनवायरनमेंट और सोशल फैक्टर्स की बात करें तो वो सेक्टर के हिसाब से चेंज हो सकता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल माइनिंग और सीमेंट इंडस्ट्री के लिए शायद ये फैक्टर्स ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो कंपेयर टू अ बैंकिंग सेक्टर. देन वी स्पोक अबाउट हाइब्रिड फंड्स. हाइब्रिड फंड्स जो हैं FD से थोड़ा ज़्यादा रिटर्न दे सकते हैं एज कम्पेयर टू वेरी सिमिलर टू पैसिव फंड्स. लेकिन जो हार्डकोर इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर्स होते हैं वो इक्विटी में ही इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, वो हाइब्रिड फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करेंगे. इसके बाद हमने सोल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड फंड्स के बारे में डिस्कस किया। तो सोल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड म्यूचुअल फंड्स बेसिकली ऐसे म्यूचुअल फंड्स होते हैं जो एक स्पेसिफिक फाइनेंशियल गोल को दिमाग में रखते हुए अपना पोर्टफोलियो डिजाइन करते हैं। फाइनेंशियल गोल्स लाइक रिटायरमेंट प्लानिंग या चिल्ड्रंस एजुकेशन प्लानिंग। नाउ ये जो फंड्स होते हैं ये बहुत अच्छे होते हैं एज पर मिस्टर गोपानी, एंड व्हेन एन इन्वेस्टर इज इन्वेस्टिंग इन दीज फंड्स ही शुड लुक एट द पोर्टफोलियो चर्न एंड द फंड मैनेजर्स परफॉर्मेंस। ये जो सोल्यूशन ओरिएंटेड फंड्स होते हैं इनका लॉक इन रहता है एंड योर मनी इज लॉक्ड इन फॉर द लॉन्ग टर्म, क्योंकि ये एक बहुत वाइटल फाइनेंशियल गोल आपको अचीव करने में मदद कर रहे हैं थ्रू द पावर ऑफ कंपाउंडिंग इन द लॉन्ग टर्म। इसके बाद वी स्पोक अबाउट पैसिव फंड्स एंड व्हाट काइंड ऑफ इंडेक्स फंड्स वी शुड बी सिलेक्टिंग। तो मिस्टर गोपानी सेज कि लेस कॉम्प्लिकेटेड फंड्स जो निफ्टी 50 या निफ्टी 500 पे फोकस करते हैं उसमें इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं कंपेयर टू स्लाइटली मोर कॉम्प्लिकेटेड फंड्स which look at Nifty Next 50. Mr. Gopani then told us कि अगर हमें इंडेक्स फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करना है तो हम ऐसे फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं जो निफ्टी 50 या निफ्टी 500 को ट्रैक करते हैं, बिकॉज दीज आर स्लाइटली लेस कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एज कम्पेयर टू फंड्स दैट ट्रैक निफ्टी नेक्स्ट 50. फिर मिस्टर गोपानी ने हमें अपने पोर्टफोलियो के बारे में बताया एंड ही टोल्ड अस दैट ही फोकसेस 100% ऑफ हिज पोर्टफोलियो ऑन इक्विटी। ही इज अ हार्डकोर इक्विटी इन्वेस्टर और उनकी जो मोस्ट ऑफ द इक्विटी फंड्स हैं वो उनके खुद के AMC के हैं। Axis AMC is looking to launch an NFO which is focused on business cycle funds. So I hope you guys love this episode, and of course अगर आपको ये episode अच्छा लगा तो hit the like button, share it with everyone, and of course subscribe to the Groww Mutual Fund channel, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.